Welcome to Impact Media Presents. I am Kelly Redmond, your host and Executive Director of Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition. This is our 82nd episode, and it is very, very special. As you know, we have been counting down to Christmas and celebrating our 12 Christmas favorites. And today I have a very special guest, friend, supporter of Impact Media, Gwen Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Kelly, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You were here at the very beginning, the very first live stream as we celebrated Christine Swanson and Camille Tucker, the director and producer of the Clark Sisters biopic, The First Ladies of Gospel.
Absolutely.
And very, very special to have you here. I have crowned you queen of the romantic comedies, of the rom-coms. And I don't give away that title lightly. I'm the princess, but you're the queen.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. I just don't want anybody to think that I gave myself a title. You know, back in the day, I gave myself the title of diva. Okay, I'll admit to that. But, I do not consider myself the queen of the rom-coms, although, yes, indeed, the rom-coms are my guilty pleasure.
Hey there.
There you go.
I don't know what happened there. That was very, very strange, but you can keep on going if it happens again.
All right.
Oh, goodness. But yes, no titles that you're giving yourself. I definitely crowned you that. We have been talking about the romantic comedies and rom-coms for years.
Yes,
and I thought this would be such a special way to end the countdown to Christmas with our final highlighting favorites and celebrating the Black Christmas rom-coms, and with you, a very dear friend, supporter. Not only were you on our first live stream, you were at our very first Impact Media Summit, and it meant the world that you flew in for it. You have just been here for us all along, and I'm so grateful.
Well, if I could just say one thing, Kelly, it's so wonderful to be able to support a sister who is being such a caretaker of the culture. And so anything that we can do to support the work that you're doing is worthwhile, whatever we have to do. So kudos and congratulations to you for all that you do with Impact Media.
Thank you so much. I love that. The caretaker of the culture, because that is exactly, you framed it in a way that I've never thought of, but thank you so much, because I really do care about our people and our culture. And when we were discussing this, when I brought the idea to you, I told you, I believe the world needs more Black love and laughter. And this is one way that we see it in rom-coms. And although some say that, it's too aspirational, not realistic, I'm like, if everybody else can have aspirational and unrealistic love stories on television or in film, why can't we?
Absolutely.
And nobody's perfect, but I believe we have some families that can represent some of these stories, and they are our stories. Nobody's perfect, but I'm so glad that we are seeing more and more Black ones. So I tell you what, let's talk about your why, and then we'll dive into our list. Why do you like romantic comedies, and in particular, the Christmas Black rom-coms?
Well, I think it starts back for that. I gotta give a shout out to my brother-in-law, because it was the reason that I got into the rom-coms was because my brother-in-law, who's an attorney in South Florida, one of the forms of relaxation for him actually was spending time with the Hallmark Channel. Mm-hmm. And so when I started talking to him about why you like the Hallmark Channel, what's relaxing, and it is a little bit of escapism, if you will. And as you know, Kelly, we have very high-powered, high-pressured positions. So to be able to escape a little bit, and do it in a very healthy kind of way, if you will, was wonderful. So that was first brought me to the rom-coms, but I also realized that it was somewhat of an extension of what I always loved as a child.
Yeah.
I love the Grimm's fairy tales, if you will. I love the Nancy Drew mystery books. I love Beverly Cleary. I'm really dating myself here, but back in my day, in the boomer age, Beverly Cleary was one of those artists, authors, if you will, who wrote about teenagers and teenagers' first experience and so on and so forth. So when I look at rom-coms, it's kind of like adult escapism, adult fairy tales, if you will. Yes, there's aspects of them that are aspirational, and if you look at maybe some part of Harlequin romances. So when you put all that together, rom-coms fills that need.
Absolutely. And I would say growing up, spending a lot of time at my grandmother's, who loved the ABC soap operas. So they were on all day. And from a young child, I was exposed to some of our favorite love stories on the soap operas. And so that's kind of where it started for me, in addition to just any love story that we had, in our movies, on our television series. Sparkle was
Oh
my
my goodness, yes.
tribute to Sparkle, and rest in peace to Irene Cara, who we just recently lost as the original Sparkle. But that love story, when they were on the porch, when they had their first kiss, that is just one of my favorite scenes of all times in movies. So let's dig in, Gwen.
Yeah.
We're gonna, audience viewers, we're going to do a countdown to 10, and then we're going to do some shout outs to some others. But we're both going to start with our number 5s and then work our way up to number 1 and share a little bit about each one. And so Gwen is going to start with her number 5, and then we'll go back and forth.
Well, I'm going to start, and I'm going to give a little bit of a preface here, because to say that my list was really split between what I saw on Hallmark Channel this season and also what I saw on Lifetime too, because historically, if you will, over the past 5 to 7 years, Hallmark Channel and Lifetime have really given us some options, if you will, when it's come to rom-coms. Competitive. So, and another reason that I have spent a little more time with Lifetime and with Hallmark Channel is that I really wanted to make sure that I was giving a shout out to Wanya Lucas, who is the CEO. We got to give Sister Wanya Lucas a big hands up for all the deft work that she is doing in guiding that and turning the sales of Hallmark Channel, making them more inclusive and more diverse in terms of the offerings that we've had. So I'm going to start with my number 5 is really from the 2021 season, and it was called Delivered by Christmas. And it was a lovely story of a sister who has come from corporate America, from a financial background, to owning her own bakery and giving back to the community, if you will. Now, the love interest that she connects with, however, is non-melanated, if you will, and we kind of take a move from that. But it's a lovely, sweet story telling the story of a divorced dad who has lost his military wife in the war and how they are navigating the holidays, and mostly him, the father, having someone, a sounding board, and someone to share grief, if you will,
Yes.
with this sister. So I really love that story. It was very, very, very sweet movie.
Yes. I'm not sure if I saw that one. It sounds a little familiar, but sounds like one I would definitely like. I really like most of all of them, and I love your list,
Yeah.
by the way. And I'm going to give a shout out to Lena Hostcloff from Fuji, who's tuning in and chiming in and saying cheers to the rom-coms, and she gave me a shout out. So I want to acknowledge Lena for being here with us and chiming in the conversation. My number 5, and quite honestly, it was really hard to rank them. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that, one is better than the other. It's just having to choose somewhat of an order. But all of them I absolutely love. But I really love Kirk Franklin's The Night Before Christmas on Lifetime. And it was featuring Luke James and Naturi Naughton and a lot of our gospel favorites. And I will tell you, in my top 5, a lot of them are musical, and they have some of our absolute favorite musicians and vocalists that were featured. And when you put the story to music, for me, it just really does it for me. And so it was just incredible. It was so motivating and inspirational. And it was a sweet love story where the pastor had a crush on a single mom who brought her daughter in from a snowstorm into the church. And he said, wait a minute, this was my high school crush. And then he figured out whether or not it was her, confirmed it was her. And they were able to develop a relationship, kind of being snowed in, if you will, in the church, along with the cast of their Christmas musical. So it was a really neat story in that regard. And one thing that really touched my heart was her daughter developed a very special relationship with someone who was in need of housing. And he was staying at the church and receiving services from the church. And he was a musician, and she encouraged him to use his gifts as a drummer to perform in the Christmas musical. Mm-hmm. And to reach out to his family, and she reconnected him with his family. And I thought that was super sweet. And I loved it for that reason.
I have not seen that one, but that's going to go on my list as I binge watch next week.
Yes. So what about your number 4?
My number 4 is Holiday Heritage. And we want to give a shout out to Sister Holly Robinson P.
Yes.
She has been with Hallmark Channel, and she has done, as you know, if you watch Hallmark Channel, she's done a number of projects with Hallmark Channel, and the work that she and her husband Rodney P. and their family have done with Hallmark Channel over the years has just been an excellence. And so it's been a wonderful what she has done, again, to put that emphasis on family and celebrate Black families, if you will, has been very much appreciated. So, kudos to you, Holly. But this particular movie really concentrated on the celebration of Kwanzaa. And what I liked about this is goes back again to so often, I think so many of us have felt over the years that we were told that Blacks don't have a culture, right?
Exactly.
And there's nothing celebratory in our culture. And what a gift we got, especially when the celebration of Kwanzaa began. Yes. And, late 80s, early 90s, that kind of moved forward. And to see where the celebration Kwanzaa has begun or is today, with it being also, not only a, inspirational celebration, it's not necessarily spiritual, but there is a spiritual aspect. And the Black church has accepted Kwanzaa celebrations, but also just a cultural celebration. And for us to show across the diaspora why the celebration of Kwanzaa is so important, really so. It was just wonderful to see this movie, to see the celebration of the movie, to see the elements of Kwanzaa integrated throughout the script, so that even if you are if you are a non-melanated friend, and want to learn more about, about Black culture, what better opportunity there is to watch, to see this movie. And so, and again, Kelly, gotta say, even though we're going and kind of, our started from our top 5, really each one of these movies could be our top one, could be number 1, because there's excellence in each one of these films.
Absolutely. And as I said, you had some on my list as well. So, this is our list. So we're sharing it. And I just want to chime in. It was so beautiful to see the young Black mayor in that. And then also to see how a family grieves and recovers from the loss of their patriarch.
Yeah.
And the mother-daughter relationship and with the granddaughter, and how they kind of lost their way without their patriarch, and then the father and husband, and then all came together, and the father and the husband was the mayor, and then mentored the young man who ended up being the love interest of the granddaughter. So that it was just very sweet. I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 4, we're gonna have to do them a little faster.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to cover. The Sound of Christmas, and that was on BET, and the most recognizable person and name was Neo, and Neo played a widow. He lost his wife to cancer, and his mother played matchmaker by having a young lady from the church choir come to be their nanny with his 2 kids who were really having a tough time, and they were showing out, but she was able to love on them and reintroduce them to music. They found they shared music in common. And Neo, who was the father, although he had music was a big part of their family, he forbade music being in the house because it was too painful. But it was just really beautiful to see how the love of music and the love of family, and mom playing matchmaker for the son who was in a relationship with a gold digger, if you will. But what was really neat, the mother used the young lady, the nanny, as a way to even bring him back to God, bring him back to the church, and to see her perform in the Christmas musical and minister in music at the church. But one thing that I really loved about this too is Neo's character. He wasn't going to church on Sundays, but he was still ministering, and he kept it a secret. He had built a home for women who had cancer, and a hospice place for them to be amongst the most comfortable ambiance and beauty in their final days. And he would go and spend time with them, and that was his ministry. And I thought that was so beautiful. And it was another way to say, even though if you're not in the church, if you love the Lord and use your gifts to be a blessing to others, and that is ministry. Doesn't matter if we're in a church or not. That was something that really stood out for me. So that was my number 4. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is the holiday stocking. That was on Hallmark Channel as well too. And to me, this particular movie, I'm pulling on threads that I saw in that movie that were somewhat touched by an angel, somewhat the preacher's wife, in terms of the angel that comes back, somewhat to redeem oneself through some good deeds. Also, the themes of culture, because it starts with this family and a tradition that they had around the holiday stocking, and how they carried it through with moving forward in contemporary society, if you will. And what I also liked about it is because the 2 female leads in the movie, they were responsible businesswomen, if you will. I'll describe it as that, because one, was carrying on a family business, which was a bakery, but the other sister had established herself in the world of advertising. And this took place in Chicago. So it was very special, because with us both coming from Chicago, I saw all kind of nods to Chicago and celebrating holidays in Chicago that were really special. And I love the ad agency ownership of the one sister, because it made me think of agencies in Chicago like Burrell, like Morris, like Carol H. Williams, like Barbara Proctor, and I saw those kind of elements too. So if you know that history of the Chicago advertising community, you will enjoy this movie.
Yes, I believe Nadine Ellis was the actress that played the advertising agency executive. And yes, absolutely love that one as well. Next for me, number 3 is A Wesley Christmas. And I love that they brought back some of our classic actors on BET. We had Jasmine Guy, Dorian Wilson, T.C. Carson. And the thing that really, there was a lot of joy and a lot of love in it throughout the family, extended family. And it was just really beautiful to see multi generations coming together to celebrate Christmas. And T.C. Carson actually played a Vietnam vet who was living outside of their home in a trailer. And he was having a really tough time. And the two daughters of the main characters, that played by Jasmine and Dorian, they actually made a bargain with him that they invited, everyone kept trying to invite him to Christmas dinner and he wouldn't come. They said they would give him a makeover, and boy, they made him over, and he was clean and looked so good that the auntie who was rivaling with him about the parking spaces fell in love with him at the end. And it was really sweet because it ended up, you know, hearing our story. Most of our family members who served in Vietnam, we didn't get those stories. They were too hurt to talk about what happened. And it was just so beautiful to see the story of our Vietnam vets celebrated, you know, in this way. The way he opened up and softened up to the young ladies, the daughters, and they bonded. It was just absolutely beautiful. And then they actually tied it back to the aunt, her husband. He actually risked his life for him, and he had a picture of it. It was just so beautiful to see how all the pieces kind of came together, and then they ended up having they bonded and started had a tie for their love over her deceased husband. So that one was very special and sentimental to me, especially having uncles who served, two uncles who served in Vietnam, and other uncles that served in the wars.
That's wonderful.
What do you have as number two?
Well, my number two was the New Orleans Noel, and I love that because again, Patti LaBelle is in that one, and the matriarch, and so and I like the background of New Orleans being being the foundation of that particular film too, because as we know, there's so much Black culture that is centered around New Orleans, and to understand the traditions and the music and the family ties, what brings family together. I think the only thing, and I might have missed it, but I don't know if if Miss Patty had one of her pies showcased in the film at all. But I really enjoyed that, but I might have missed that because I was probably multitasking while I was watching that particular film as well. So I got to go back and watch that one again. But and the music, and again, tying in the music, which is so central to telling our stories as well too. That really enjoyed that one too. So that was
good. Praline business, and that was really nice to kind of tie in around the sweets and the with her. But then what was also special was Keisha Knight Pulliam and her husband in real life.
Yeah.
Were college buddies, and the grandma called in Keisha to come and rebuild and redesign their home along with their grandson, and then they rekindled and fell in love. And that one was really sweet and definitely high on my list as well. Okay, my number two was All Saints Christmas, featuring Missy as the female lead and love interest. And we already know the music was off the chain with our sister Lettucey as a love interest. It was so beautiful to just see her in love, being loved. It was just absolutely beautiful. And it was a celebration of Black business and family Black business, and a family business that was centered around music, because the father owned a club and a venue where the family performed. And she had become a superstar kind of singer, and she was coming back for the holidays. So, and they were trying to save the business. And actually the father was going to close the business, but the children decided to keep the business and save. And so that was, I love that aspect of family, Black owned business, the music aspect, and of course, the love story. So,
Right.
all right, we'll do a drum roll for our number one. What did you have as your number one?
My number one was Inventing the Christmas Prince.
Yes.
And I think Tamara Housley did just a wonderful, wonderful job in telling, in telling this story about a mom and wanting to make the holiday special for for her daughter, but
Yeah.
incorporating, it had the elements of what a child understands in terms of they love storytelling. They love, the fairy tales, if you will. So they love the idea of, this magical prince. But also, too, because I love the fact that Tamara's character was a woman who was involved in STEAM, because her career was
Yeah.
all around, science and technology, but to show how she brought that together in the raising, and encouraging of her daughter. That's the thread that I love that was pulled on. And yes, that might be aspirational for some folk as well too. But it just really touched our heart. The scenery and the crafting of the story. That's what I really appreciated. And it's something that is very memorable, but yet it's something that the entire family can sit down and enjoy
Absolutely.
together. Whether, it's something that we can sit with our children, with our children, whether it's our daughters and our sons. I think there's stories there for daughters and sons to take away from this, but it's also stories for parents to take away from that too. So that's why I like Inventing the Christmas Prince.
And I loved it too. And it definitely would have been on, it's on my list as well. I'll leave it at that. And my number one was Christmas Fumble on the Oprah Winfrey Network, featuring Ava Marcel and DeVale Ellis. And again, based in Chicago, Eva was a powerhouse, a fixer who was known for solving all of the very important VIP people's problems. And she was reconnected with her ex-boyfriend from college, who DeVale played. And the college that they met at and fell in love was Drake University, which was my school, which I said, wow, Drake is getting a shout out for having Black love. It was just so refreshing to see Chicago and the reference to Drake University. They called it Drake University early on, then later they called it Drake College. I'm like, they must have had to make some changes, and shame on Drake, because Drake should claim this as a story that
Absolutely.
at the university. So what was really interesting about this is DeVale was being accused of taking, money in college and, being unethical. And he was being accused by another athlete who was misplaced by him. And so there was this rivalry between the two. And then Ava's character was there to save him and his reputation. And she, had things for him to do in order to improve that. What was really beautiful is that I love the emphasis on community service. The DeVale's character actually decided to come and support and save the guy who was accusing him of being unethical, and showing him the man that he was by supporting him when he didn't have support for his holiday giveaway to the community. So the two bonded together to serve the community in a very beautiful way, and then repaired their relationship. DeVale and Eva's character, they were able to eventually rekindle their love relationship. And it was just very beautiful to see. Um, and it turned out in the end, he didn't take the money for himself. He actually took the money for his girlfriend because
Wow.
she couldn't pay her tuition. So it was just, I just loved it.
That's
Absolutely loved it. Now I'm going to run off a couple others that we recommend that you see. The first Noel on BET, Love Novi, in that one from Sisters. She was the lead female. Uh, you already mentioned in New Orleans. Noel, Rolling into Christmas, featuring one of my former church members at Faithful Central Bible Church, Ryan Nicole Brown. It's been a blessing to see her grow up and to grow up into these roles. She played Miss Chalet and in her story and biopic, and now she was with Gary Dourdan on BET. He played the single parent dad, and just a beautiful story around reconnecting with your first love. And I love roller skating, and it was great to see it all based around roller skating. So another part of our culture.
yeah.
The Christmas Clap Back with Nadine Ellis and her sisters on BET, celebrating love and dreams. The Great Holiday Bake War with LaToya Luckett. And highlighting co-parenting, effective co-parenting, and eventually, finding love on the Oprah Winfrey Network. You mentioned Holiday Heritage as well. And then A New Diva's Christmas Carol was cute, kind of silly, but cute with Ashanti. But what I loved is they hired a lot of Black women actresses that were in their, have been in their heyday. We don't see much of Vivica Fox, Robin Givens, along with Ava Marcel, who is doing a lot on VH1, and talked about healing from child abuse and a broken heart, and the importance of the way that you can heal yourself is to spread love to others. So,
And I got one that I want to add too that was on BET, and I believe I may have this wrong, but I believe this was the directorial debut of actor Victoria Rowell, and the movie was, I believe, which I have not seen yet. It's on my list for next week when I do my binge. But I believe it's titled Blackjack Christmas. And again, too, it deals with some very serious themes around, the Christmas holiday, but it's a story of redemption, if you will, and community service and give back. So I just want to give Victoria a shout out for that, because we do see some of the actors that we know very familiar to us from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, who have pivoted to wonderful now careers, even if it is behind the scenes with their own production company.
No, thank you so much for sharing that, because there's so many. Some of them we haven't seen because they haven't been released yet. So we were only able to review those that were shown, over the past couple of weeks. But we just want to say thank you to all of the networks, to all of the actors, all of the teams that bring these rom-coms to us, especially those highlighting and featuring Black love and Black characters in major roles. It's so important. It's so important for our culture. It's so important for the world to see Black love and to see our similarities more so than our differences. So thank you. We encourage you, when you can, watch them, tell others, and then we'll let the studios know that this is important and we need more of them, not just at Christmas time, but all year round, right?
Absolutely. I would just want to underscore that too, because again, coming as a marketer, if I can put my marketer chapeau on for a minute, these movies are big business.
Absolutely.
The segments and the consumers that they are talking to are very important consumers that impact the bottom line of so many brands too. So aside from the entertainment and the cultural enjoyment and appreciation, there's also a business incentive why these movies are important. And it's also important for the studios and the brands to recognize too. It's all the diversity is important, but it's all around inclusion. Everybody wants to see themselves included and reflected. And when we do that, it's a win.
Absolutely. And, when I founded Impact Media, one of the things that says positive and uplifting programming featuring Black people is profitable. And we have seen this. I started off on this journey 12 years ago. So another 12 years ago, saying positive and uplifting programming featuring Black people is profitable. And now we have enough examples. So studios, we need you to step up and do more. We appreciate what you have done, but we need more. So thank you. Thank you, Gwen. This was wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
And a few other reviews of some romantic comedies throughout the year, because I'm expecting more.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for
Thank you, Kelly.
support over these 12 years.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a wrap for our series of our 12 Christmas favorites. Thank you so much for all of the support. We had some amazing guests, and I just want to give a shout out to all of them. They were all absolutely wonderful. Just like, as I mentioned, that our favorite movies were not in any order, neither were the 12 Christmas favorites. Love them all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Doing this was such a blessing to me, and I hope it was to you too. Take care. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy holidays. Enjoy.